and welcome to the 64 doors. Today we're going to open door 36. Here we have the archetype of the storm, and the storm knows how to say yes to turbulent weather. It knows how to be in an experience and feel it fully without trying to repress, without trying to run away. It is going to be there fully until the weather changes. And it has this capacity for compassion, this capacity for humanness, as a mother would have with her child, not pushing away some of the experience, but really being there, really showing this love for ourselves and other, even in the darkest experience, even when it's deeply uncomfortable emotionally. In the storm has this readiness. Whenever the weather changes, it's there to fuel the storm and to be with it and to live it and to feel it on the skin until something changes. So I want to show you the cross of this archetype and a little bit how it can show up in somebody's life. And we're going to use both human design and the gene keys to understand this archetype and where it comes from. So right now we have the sun in Pisces in gate 36. We have the earth in Virgo in gate 6, and those are programming partners. And we have the design part of the cross is 11 and 12. This is the cross of Eden. And if you have this cross, you have this archetype, the 36. The storm is the title, you could say, of your cross. And here in human design, the keynote for it is crisis. And it can feel when you have this cross that you have been thrown out of Eden and you come down to earth and everything it's all different than paradise. And what you are here to do is to find your way back through experiences, through crisis, through friction, ideals. Through experiences, you're finding your way back in creating that little piece of paradise for yourself. So it's a quite turbulent cross, and at the same time such a beautiful cross, because you're really here to find, also finding the people. This is a 2-4 profile, I think. So you're also here to find people that you resonate with and that can create that environment with you. When we look at the circuitry, we see that, so here now suddenly we're looking at the programming partners, the 6 and the 36. Now we're looking at how it looks in the body graph. So you can see that the channel goes from gate 36 up to the throat to gate 35, and this is the channel of transistoriness. And actually we can even see that it comes from a desire in the root center, like a fuel for a desire in the root center. It goes and meets the 30th gate, that is the pure desire. And then here in the 36, it has this energy to actually make it an experience. And it comes often when it's triggered by the 35. So this is the way it moves basically in the body graph. And it becomes the channel of transistoriness, a design of being a jack of all trades. So here we can see it's a life rich of experience, and it's really not about meeting expectations. It's really about kind of bumping into things. And this is the collective circuitry. So it's not only the person that is having the experiences that is going to learn, but it's also that the human way is to learn by experience. And we also learn by seeing other people and maybe not repeating other people's mistakes. And it also has, so the 35 has a lot of hunger in it, and the 36 has this deep, the storm really wants to feel the storm, right? So it has to do with emotional turbulence, and also the sexual theme is big here, because there is this sexual drive, because many times sexuality is this medium basically that takes us into those kind of emotional deep experiences. And if we look at some more keywords, actually we can see and get to learn it a little bit more in depth. So internal motivator, the drive to have an experience, the genetic need to experience something new. So this newness, that's also when it comes to sexuality, sometimes we feel this gate is like always seeking a new experience. It's really longing. It has this desire coming from gate 30 into having an experience, a sexual experience. But then once it's eaten, it's had it once, it actually wants something new. So this is what creates turbulence many times. There are powerful emotions that are driving this gate, and there is the sexual drive. The positive attributes is this aliveness. The storm is never dead. Like a storm, it's always moving, and it has a readiness to, like we were saying in the beginning, to feel, a readiness to move. And there's a depth in it. A storm is not just the wind, it's really something deep, it's really something strong. And there's always an experience, there's always a movement. And then the Achilles heel, if you have this archetype in your profile in a prominent position, there can be a fear of emotional inadequacy. There can be a nervousness over expectations, because you're not here to meet expectations. You're here to have different experience all the time. There is a possibility of crisis, of turbulence. You can easily get triggered, because that 35, it's always there waiting to trigger 36 into experience. And you're learning by making mistakes. That's your way of learning, gaining wisdom, becoming mature. And there can be this restlessness, like waiting for the next storm, waiting to be able to move again, to have an experience, to feel again. And if we go into a little bit more of the patterns in the shadow, then it is the dark night of the soul. It is, like I said, it's the mother that will stay by the child even when it gets really dark. So it's this emotional depth of also painful experiences. And if you are the repressive nature, you're going to try to push this down, but it's going to your energy field is going to have this agitation, this nervousness in it, because the storm, you can't really push it down. It's going to show in some way. And the reactive nature is going to look like a soap opera. You go around in the world and you create storms everywhere. And like I said before, the sexual theme is big here. So there can be sexual affairs, and it can be, of course, guilt and blame. And then you might try to force yourself to change, but it's often going to be there still if it's not a true transformation that comes from the inside, but just you trying to conform so that you're not going to create crisis that much, because that storm is going to be in you in a low frequency still. So let's see how I go back. So I also wanted to look at it from a Jinky perspective. So, and it's all woven together, right? So we've already seen that the 6 and the 36 are programming partners. The turbulence and the conflict are the low frequency. And then on a higher frequency, we have the humanity, the compassion, the being able to stay there with the experience, to know that the storm is going to cease. How do you say? It's only there for a certain time. There is no storm that is going to be on forever, right? And part of what Richard says is, when your struggles with sexuality and emotional turbulence are finally embraced openly and honestly, a remarkable gift is born. You finally graduate as a human being. So it's a lot about the acceptance of the storms in our lives, and that's part of life. And when we can embrace them openly, when we can be okay with the fact that this is part of being human, then we're actually becoming much more anchored human beings, and we can be in the middle of the storm. Nothing is really moving. So if we can move into that core in the middle, we can look, we can see, we can feel everything that is going around us, but we don't have to fall into, we don't have to actually be dragged around with it. We can feel deeply, we can be there, but there is a core in us that can handle that intensity. And here in astrology, you see we're still in Pisces, so it's the spirit, the service of spirit as compassionate healer and mystic merger. It's mutable water, it's still this healer, the mystic, the poet. When we look at the integral human design, so now we're back in the channel that goes from the throat to the emotional center. So in the low frequency, it's this pointlessness. So if we are just functioning from hunger, of like experiencing something new, after a while it can feel like quite pointless. It's those experiences that are just coming out of desire, and they are not really leading to enrichment. And on a higher frequency, it is going to be experiences that lead to fulfillment, that lead to maturity, that lead to wisdom. And in the higher, it's beautiful because in the higher frequency, it's about laughter and ecstasy. So it's really about a lot of humanness. When it comes to the highest states, it's still about laughter. It's being tickled, you could say, by the storm that we're in. And the I Ching, let's look at the I Ching. So bringing light to the darkest places. So again, when we can find our core in that storm and be in the middle of the center of the storm, then we actually are bringing light. We're bringing awareness into that experience. And then it's not dark anymore. And we have the light is on it. And is there anything more I wanted to show? It's still the ring of divinity. So this is the last. We have been in the 37, the 63, the 22, and the 36. So now we have been in this quite long period of gestation where we have those gates that are coming after each other. So you can see here 37, 63, 22, 36. We have been for more than 3 weeks in these keys. And that's really a kind of a feminine gestation path where we really go deep into emotion, even emotional suffering, and we can accept it the way it is. And we're not trying to figure it out with a logical mind. We're not judging ourselves as weak. We just know that there is something in there. There's something human that is going to lead to more love. And that is actually the gate that is coming after the 25 that has to do with a universal love. And yeah, I think, let's see. So that is the explanation of this archetype, the storm, and how to accept storm in your life, how to come into the middle of the storm. And there are some questions for contemplation and that I feel I could just tell you before we end. So this week you can ask yourself, you know, are you avoiding change in your life, or are you embracing the different weathers? And how do you cope with unexpected events like crisis and tragedy? Are you able to find your core, or are you being strayed away and aside by those events? How strong is your connection to source? So we have the storm, which is, you know, it's the weather, it's an element, it has to do with earth. So how grounded are you? How easy is it for you to find your grounding through source, through nature? Is it hard for you or easy to let other people in? Can you do that and feel relaxed? And how is it for you to open up even when it comes to the sexual part, and to be receiving and to be open and exchanging on that plane? And can you see that you actually in your life create crisis, or attract emotional crisis, or provoke emotional crisis? Look at times in your life where there has been a crisis. What was it? Outside external circumstances, or was it actually you provoking it or attracting it? So this can be a very turbulent week and it can also be a very interesting week where we really get to stay with the storm until the cycle is over, until the weather changes. Thank you.